like to see is Congress give the small businessman a break.
Got a job at a bike store making $8 an hour. Pretty humbling for a guy that's 43 years old with a family of 5 and have to go work for $8 an hour.
What happens is people in politics like to cut ribbons. That's what really happens.
My name's Chris Beebe. I want to talk a little bit about my business life. I'm a woodworker. I build kitchen cabinets and furniture. Been in this business for about 30 years. I started when I was about 18, moved to South Carolina in about 1998, and started a small business. We're doing very well, being very successful. And then came '08. And from that point on, it was like a thief in the night. I lost everything. I had to shut the shop down, and I tried to get a job at Lowe's. I tried to get a job at a lumber yard. I couldn't even get a job there. Got a job at a bike store making $8 an hour. Pretty humbling for a guy that's 43 years old with a family of 5 and have to go work for $8 an hour when I used to make a lot more than that. I did that for about a year, and I actually had an opportunity to move up north to get some work. Did very well up there, but my wife had a better opportunity in the school system than she does, so we moved back. I was a little scared to move back, thinking like, what am I going to do in Charleston, South Carolina for work? A couple of my old customers called, and I actually started another small little cabinet business. I work by myself. I do smaller jobs. If I do need extra help, I hire somebody part-time. I can't afford to hire somebody full-time. I mean, I've set up a small business, so, you know, getting your licenses and the insurances, that's always going to be the same. I mean, that's your overhead cost that you have to pay for. When it comes to, like, hiring people and putting them on payroll and setting up that stuff, that's where the headache starts. It's gotten to where the government today, you know, if you're a small business, I mean, for me to hire somebody, even if I hire you and pay you $10 an hour, it would end up costing me $20 an hour. By the time I paid the income tax and the payroll tax and insurance, and I just can't afford that.
There are some rules and regulations that do put an unnecessary burden on businesses at a time when they can least afford it.
I was a service manager for a larger termite and pest control company for 17 years, and then the owner sold, and because they already had a manager, my position was basically wiped out. And at 58 years old, no one was going to hire me. So I had to do, the only thing I could do is start my own company. And this is 2.5 years later, and thank God I'm succeeding. But like I said, if I didn't have to pay 1/3 of my profit in taxes, I'd actually have money to grow the business instead of just at a plateau where I'm just kind of standing still. What I'd like to see is Congress give the small businessman a break by maybe not taxing him so heavy the first 2 or 3 years so he can get his business off the ground. The small businesses are 80% of this country, and most of them fail in the first 3 years. And I've just been through the first 2 years of a small business, and I'm surviving, but the taxes are at 35%. If they were down lower, about maybe 5 or 10%, I would have a little bit more cash flow and maybe even be able to hire somebody.
Our tax code should not give an advantage to companies that can afford the best connected lobbyists. It should give an advantage to companies that invest and create jobs right here in the United States of America.
The underpinnings to again, a fertile playing field for our business's growth would be legal environment, regulatory environment, tax environment. You get those 3 things right, and you're going to see more investment, whether from a large business or a small. I think where you also help a small business is for instance, in your infrastructure, whether that's through the air, the internet, or it's in traditional physical infrastructure in terms of roads, bridges, those kinds of things. Well, anyway, those 4 ingredients, I'd say, are the major ones. Disproportionately impact a small business over a large business. Ideally, there ought to be no incentives other than getting the 4 sole conditions I talked about earlier right. and you would treat every business the same, whether it's a large business, small business, period. That's what ought to be the case, and growth would be organic to a state, to a country. What happens is people in politics like to cut ribbons. That's what really happens. And so incentives are offered for big businesses, one, because it's a chance for the politicians to stand up and cut a ribbon and say, look who's coming to town. The only incentive ought to be given would be the lowest tax rate possible, the best regulatory environment possible, the best legal climate possible, and good infrastructure. You have those four things, people would be flocking to your state or your country to invest. I don't think you should come to South Carolina on that basis of just collecting tax money, because the unintended consequence of many of these incentives, you'd put a whole host of little businesses out of business that are in the same line of work, are from the same product, and in many cases have been South Carolina residents and taxpayers for a very long time.
America should be in a race to the top, and I believe we can win that race.